It is that time again. Headphone highlights. I'm not going to worry about it. More nitpicky things I'm saying about the camera positioning now, but I'm not going to worry about it. It's fine. Interesting headphones we have today. Very interesting. Today we have... This is another partnership project with Drop. These are the Drop plus Mr. Speaker or Dan Clark. You know what? I know this is ridiculous, but I always get just a little bit confused on the name on these. Because the naming conventions for a lot of the Mr. Speaker stuff gets a little like, what? Which one is it? I don't know anymore. So let me double check really quick. I want to make sure I get it right. Whoops. Okay, that's what I thought. Yes, these are the Drop Plus Mr. Speaker ethercx closed. There you go. The ethercx closed. So what these are, Mr. Speaker, he's been making headphones for a while, and I feel like he's kind of dropped the Mr. Speaker name, and now he just kind of goes by Dan Clark now. So these are, Mr. Speaker / Dan Clark partnership. What these are based off of are the etherc's, the etherc closed, or is it just the ether closed? I don't really remember. His naming conventions aren't great, but they're based off of the ethers, the closed variant ethers that he has, that Mr. Speakers has. And they're incredibly similar in terms of their aesthetic and their build. There's a few differences, which I'm not going to go too much into, because they're really not that big of a difference in terms of the construction and the build of the body. But very, very similar stuff. They are, like I was mentioning earlier on the stream, very, very, very close back. I mean, they really, really seal very, very well. I don't hear my computer anymore. If my fan was on, I would not be able to hear my fan. I don't hear anything. My voice is very, very muffled. So they have a really, really excellent passive noise isolation. So very, very closed. In terms of the build, what we're looking at here is what it seems. This is, in fact, carbon fiber. Woohoo, fancy. That is a very, very large carbon fiber cup. Around that carbon fiber is a metal ring, which houses the metal bracket that goes into, I don't remember what kind of metal these are. It's something specific. It's not like a steel, spring steel, whatever. It's something else. It's durable, but also very pliable. You can bend it quite a bit. But these are metal bars that go all the way around for the headband. And then you have a very simple leather comfort strap, which does, it can. You can adjust it simply by this little tension here. It's just tension adjusting. It's very, very smooth. It's very, very tight. So at its lowest setting, your comfort strap is here, but there's no limiter on where you can put the adjustment on these. So you really could have this adjustment way, way up to the point where your comfort strap is just kind of like running flush with the headband, which kind of defeats the purpose a little bit. You know what I mean? I mean, it's obviously more comfortable than just having these bars on your head. But I guess the point I'm trying to make here is if you have a really, really large head, you have a limit to how much you can expand this. So for me, having it all the way like that, that's a little large. Right about there with a hat on is comfortable for me. And you'll notice that it's still pretty darn close. Like I'm almost touching the bars there. So yeah, your size is going to how it's going to fit on your head is going to be very much a sink or swim situation, depending on the size of your head. But it does seem like it can get pretty small. So if you've got a smaller head, you're probably going to be fine. And this is real leather, I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think so. And it's, you know, it's very simple construction for the headband, but it's very much function over form. You know, this is just very simple, but it works. It works. This is a very nice, very comfortable comfort strap. And the headband is simple, lightweight. It's great. No big deal. These pads are big, humongous, very, very soft, very plush pads. They don't have a memory foam. They have just kind of a dense foam. It's not super dense. It's actually really not that dense at all. And the pads themselves are just made of this really, really nice, soft leather. In fact, while I got the product page up, let's see what kind of leather, eh? These are... they have a velvet bag, and the ear pads are... Alright, they are Japanese protein leather. Okay. And it says that they are removable. I can't remember if they have a... They just kind of peel off? Not really. I'm not going to mess with it too much. It says that they are removable. I'm not entirely sure exactly how they're removable, but apparently they are. I don't think you really need to, because they're really, really nice and soft and comfortable. And they're big. What's interesting, though, is this shape on the inside. It's a rectangle shape. We haven't seen that before. We've seen oval shapes. We've seen very, very circular shapes. We've even seen kind of like a D shape and an ear shape, but not really a rectangle shape. So that's pretty unique to this headphone. And it's not without purpose, because a unique feature about this headphone, and I say this with kind of a little bit of a grain of salt, these headphones are designed where it's intended for you to be able to varying degrees, adjust the sound to your liking. This is not necessarily a headphone that you pick up, you buy, you listen to it, and that's just how it's going to listen to. They have included an extra feature to this headphone where you can kind of customize the sound a little bit. And I'll show you how they got away with that. It's very simple, but it is effective. So, what you get with this headphone is you get little foam blocks like this. You get two different kinds of black and two different kinds of white. This white is a pretty darn thick felt fabric. And then this black here is a pretty see-through. You can see through me a little bit. See through it to see me. Pretty thin foam. Okay, so you get two different thicknesses of foam and two different thicknesses of felt. And you can combine them any way you want. In general, the white felt, I believe, the white felt is intended to kind of increase the lower end, so your bass and your sub basses. You use the white felt, you'll get more bass. You use the black foam, it will calm down your high ends a little bit. If you have really sharp high end, throw some of the black foam in there, and it'll quench that a little bit, bring it down, make it not so crispy. And how you do that is, here's your rectangular cup. I take my white fabric, what do you call it? felt fabric, my black foam, and I literally just stuff it in there. You have to finagle it a little bit to get it to kind of fit in and underneath the pad on the inside. But once it's in there, it's in there. So now instead of having just kind of a more or less a direct line of sound from the driver, there's still a tiny bit of like a mesh fabric on the pad itself that is over the driver. So that's isolating, not isolating. It has to transfer through that first, but now it has to transfer through that, also through the felt, and also through the foam. So what the configuration I went with has the most low end that you can give it, and also the highs just brought down a little bit, quenched just a tiny bit. Don't think that it's going to make a humongous difference. It doesn't make a huge difference, but it does make a difference that you can hear. It's very subtle, but it is there. With this new configuration, the really sharp highs are a lot more well controlled, and the low end is a bit more punchy and a bit more present. So that's the unique feature with this. Adjustability with your sound through these kind of weird foam bits. Last thing I'll kind of talk about are the cables and the connection. So I don't think we've seen connections like this before. This uses a frickin', what do they even call this? Yeah, that's what I thought. These are a 4-pin mini XLR. Look at that. They are big boy plugs. Big boy audio jacks. 4 pins. Okay. And 4 pins for the entry. 1 per each. And the way that they work is it's a little obnoxious, if I'm honest. You have to fit them in there just right. They only go in one way. You can't just pop them on. You have to line it up just right, and it can be a little funky to figure out exactly where it goes, but they just kind of click in like that. And to get them back off, if you were to try and just pull on this, you probably will break the cable. To get them back up, you have to pinch this knurled section right here, pull it down, boop, and then it'll pop off. A lot of like medical tubing equipment has stuff like that. So it's heavy duty connections for your headphones. I don't find it particularly necessary, but you know, whatever. They're not easy to find. Cables that terminate this way are not super easy to find. You're probably going to have to go through some third-party custom cable manufacturer to get additional cables for this. So that's not ideal, but it is what it is. The cable that it comes with is okay. It's an okay cable. It does get, if you see that right there, I've had this cable for years. This has never come unjank. It's still got these weird little wobbles in it. It's not the end of the world, but aesthetically, it just looks kind of messy. And I would prefer if it was just a bit smoother and draped a bit better. So the actual cable itself, though, it's fine. It's functional. It's got a nice braid on it. Hey, Raul, good to see you, man. Super complicated cables make you moist. Well, it makes Raul moist, apparently. Yeah, it's a fine cable. It's okay. I haven't gone out to get a custom cable for these. I don't think. These might share the same connection with the next pair of headphones we're going to talk about. I don't remember off the top of my head. But yeah, cable they come with is fine. I think it even came with the 4-pin XLR balance end. So it's fine. These are humongous headphones, but they're carbon fiber. And this headband is basically nothing. It's just 2 strips of metal wire or whatever. So they are, even though they're giant, and even though they are giant planar drivers, they're very light. I mean, comparing these with the freaking M1060s is night and day. These are significantly lighter. They're very light. They are... Wow, I got the product page up. Probably tells me the weight right here. Maybe not. Well, whatever. So yeah, they're very, very light, which is great. Because biggest problem with magnetic headphones is they're often very heavy. So that's going to contribute to the comfort, which we'll talk about now. The pads are very, very comfortable and very, very soft, and very sealing. They really do mold to the side of your head and really do make that isolation. So it's very comfortable around the ear. Even though that kind of rectangular hole in the pad, I feel like if you have really large ears, that might kind of get a little irritating for you. My ears are floating in there fine. They're not really touching the pads. What they are kind of touching, though, just a tiny, tiny bit, are the foam inserts that I put into the pads. Without those foam inserts, I think my ears are just kind of floating totally free, and they're not touching anything. But once I put those inserts in to increase the low end and decrease the high end, I could just barely feel them touching the side of my ear. It's not a big deal. It doesn't bother me. It's totally fine, but just something to note. I feel like if you have large ears, this rectangular shape in the pad might be an issue for you. But it's fine for me. And I have probably bigger than normal ears. So the pads are great. The headband is completely just functional. Just functional and comfortable. I don't really feel anything on top of my head. I don't feel this comfort strap really at all. It's just like it's not even there. The only presence I feel is here on the side of my head. And it's not to say that there's a huge amount of clamp force. It's decent. It's a decent amount, and it has to be for it to really kind of seal in the way it does. So that's where you're getting the most pressure, is right on the side of your ear. Not on your ear, but around your ear on the side of your head. That's where you're feeling the presence of the headphones. I wouldn't call it uncomfortable by any means. I wouldn't call it something that would get fatiguing over time. I've worn these for several hours over the week, and it's not been an issue. The only real, and I loosely call it an issue because it doesn't get to a point where it's a problem, but the inside, because of the seal on these pads is so isolated, it gets a little warm in there. Not to the point where I got sweaty ear syndrome or whatever, but it's a little warm, just a smidge. There's just no breathing happening here, which is to be expected because they are so darn closed. But otherwise, they're quite comfortable, especially considering the size of them. They're huge. Look at them. They're gigantic headphones, but carbon fiber is magic and crazy, crazy light. So that helps a lot. I'd say probably out of our planars, maybe with the exception of the Argons, these are easily one of the more comfortable ones. I would give them a similar comfort to the Klipsch Heritage HP3s. The Heritage HP3s have a much worse headband. It's a much better built headband, but a headband that's nowhere near as comfortable as these. But I'd still rate it around the same. So I'm going to say these are about a 7.5 to maybe an 8 clouds of comfort. So really good comfort. Very good. Probably... No, I guess not. I feel like I gave the Argons a crazy high comfort score because they're just that amazing. So, the sound. Man, okay. These are workhorse headphones. I'm going to bring the mic in a little bit here. These headphones have a purpose, and that purpose is mastering. These are mastering headphones. These are referencing headphones. These headphones are almost excruciatingly neutral. Almost to the point of them being boring. But they're not boring. I'll throw that out there now. They're not boring, but they are incredibly neutral. Much more neutral than even our HD6XXs, if you can believe it. Yes, we have something that's actually more neutral than the 6XXs. They are extremely neutral. And although with the system of swapping out the padding or whatever to adjust the your frequencies can affect that a little bit, it's not enough to deviate from the fact that these are incredibly neutral headphones. Crazy neutral headphones. You are getting almost exactly what you should be getting from your sound with these. It's not colored at all. It's not characterized at all. It is absolutely honest. And, that is exactly what you need if you're mastering. We've talked about this before. Headphones that have incredible fidelity and neutrality and analytical capabilities have a tendency to be a little bit boring because they're not flavored, they're not super exciting, and the point of that is because they want them to be as truthful and honest and accurate as they possibly can. And that's what we have here. These are super crazy, honest, and accurate headphones. But they're not boring. They do some things that are just downright incredible. At the beginning of the stream, as soon as we started the game up and I started moving around, I kind of went like, whoa, if you remember. And I hadn't really been, during the week of wearing these, I haven't really played really many games with them. I was just kind of doing music listening for the most part. But what I immediately noticed at the beginning of the stream here, playing Mass Effect, is once we started walking around, those footsteps for me were so sharp and crystal freaking clear. And I was absolutely able to identify the positioning of where Shepard was versus where Jacob and Miranda were. I heard exactly where they were. So the imaging on these is fabulous. I mean, and I was going to mention it anyway because with your music, it's the same deal. But even for gaming, the imaging on these is really, really incredible. It is super precise. It is super immersive. You can really, really pinpoint every ensemble in your music, every instrument, and apparently also footsteps are happening all around you. These do not have really any soundstage, so it's not the same kind of crazy imaging and space that we were getting with maybe like the AKG 7XXs. So you're not getting this huge surrounding experience, but it does still give you this sense of space because of the imaging. Like it really did feel like I could feel Jacob and Miranda over either one of my shoulders when we were just walking around. So, yeah, not a whole lot of soundstage. If there's any, it's very, very small. But that being said, very interesting. And I remember this being something that a conclusion I came to when I first got these headphones and I was listening to them and putting them through their initial paces several years ago. these headphones have this incredible ability where, more than any other headphone that I own, these sound like I'm at a movie theater. And that might sound a little strange because I just told you there's no soundstage. And there really isn't. But the kind of presence and fidelity that you get at like an IMAX movie theater experience, that's immediately where my mind went to when I listened to these for the first time. It's like, wow, I feel like I'm in a movie theater right now. A very intimate movie theater. It's not super far away. It's right here. But still, it felt like this big. It feels like you have almost speakers on your head. Like theatrical speakers. That's a good thing. But again, the point of these is accuracy. So you're not going to have crazy fun booming low end. You do not. Even though I've put in the white felt to increase the low end, it's not going to be a fun booming headphone. It is never going to be. That's not its intent. It has low end, okay? Almost similar to those hi-fi-mans that I was gushing about a couple weeks ago. Very fast low end, very tight low end. And it can hit deep, but it doesn't rumble away. There's no roll off to it. It's just very accurate, clean, unintrusive low end. So it's very, very natural, very, very accurate and honest. And I can't really tell you if that it's, got a little bit more in the low end or a little bit more in the high end or a little bit more in the mid range, because again, these are incredibly neutral. So everything is almost at a flat line. Everything is present and everything is given extreme attention to detail. You can hear everything in that spectrum. Low, mid, high. It's all there. Nothing is exaggerated. Nothing is colored. Nothing is being veiled. Nothing is raised one way or the other. It's just all there. Not blasting at you. It's just there. And you can sit there and you can really identify everything in your music that you need to. Which is what you want when you're mastering. And that's the point of these headphones. I feel like that's the point of these headphones. And a couple other reviewers, I think, were saying the same thing. I think I remember Josh mentioning that in his review years ago. But yeah, they're very much for that experience. True, honest, unflavored music. And they really excel at that incredibly well. What the heck was I listening to last week? I had a moment where I was sitting here and yeah, I don't remember exactly what I was listening to, but I remember it was the first time in a long time where, so I know my mind's kind of bouncing around a little bit, but I'll get to a point. Because these are so neutral and so analytical, it's difficult to not get extremely focused on what you're listening to. Obviously, when you're playing a video game, you're focused on the game. You're not really listening to it. But music, it's incredibly difficult not to really be sitting there and diving into your music and being very, I don't want to say scrutinizing, but you're very much attentive to what you're hearing. So throughout the week when I was listening to my library, I found myself quite often sitting here in my chair looking a little upward and having my eyes closed, which I don't do very often. I'm not the kind of guy that sits there with his audiophile headphones with his eyes closed and just kind of like drifts away. I'm not that kind of guy. But this week I kind of was, because it's difficult not to get almost into this trance-like state with your music because you're so focused on what you're hearing. It's almost an unavoidable kind of thing. Because everything is so clear and so precise, it's hard not to like close your eyes and envision everything you're seeing and where you're hearing it, and really like, oh yeah, there's that part there that I don't normally hear. I can hear the acoustics. This guy over here is playing his acoustics, but then his friend over here picks up with his whatever, and it just the fade over to that. It just it gets really you become an analytical critic almost. It's just a weird kind of experience. So as we've talked before, if you have headphones that are capable of that, the problem you're going to run into is if you have really poorly recorded music, it's going to sound like crap. And there's no exception to that here. These headphones, because they're so analytical, if you have low quality recording on your music, it's not going to sound too great. But the stuff that is properly recorded is going to be incredibly immersive and incredibly detailed. So they're really amazing headphones. But don't expect to sit back and relax with them. They're very intense. They're very precise. They're not meant to lay back on your couch and just have a good time. These are, I'm going to sit here and just listen to music. And I'm going to listen to it with all of my focused attention I possibly can. That's what these are. That's what they do for you. If you don't want to have that experience, don't worry about it. But if you want that experience, or if you want something to be able to mix audio with and just have incredible accuracy and control over the music that you are making, it's going to be really, really hard to beat this. So there you go. A little quicker than usual, I hope. But they're great. I love them a lot. And, I don't really have other headphones that fit this purpose. Most of my headphones, as you've experienced, have been pretty fun. Just kind of bombastic, flavorful, colorful, have lots of character. I especially like ones that have lots of character. But there's no denying that there is a purpose to this situation of just pure fidelity and pure analysis. And you could still really enjoy it if you're willing to dive into it like that. So that sounds like a strange experience. Yeah, it is kind of a strange experience, but it's cool. It's great. I'm glad to have headphones that could do that. So, okay, let's get back to the game.